I bring you great greetings from Evergreen State College, Tacoma campus. We are so excited to present to you our fifth part of our five-part series of our virtual lecture given to you in preparation for our incredible fall quarter, just about to come up this end of this September. We are so blessed, and I just want to welcome all of you from far and wide, students, prospective students, alumni, Olympia family. We just come together now as one family during these hard times. If you are covered in smoke, you are in this community. You are part of us. If you are undergoing COVID, you are part of this circle. If you have had any struggles with racial divide and the concern in this country, and you mean to heal it, you are part of this evergreen community. And we are so happy to welcome all of you to our virtual lecture series today. I want to tell you that we have a few special guests, and I hope that our author in residence, who we have enjoyed so much, TaRessa Stovall, who will be presenting later on today, and I have a special guest that I am bringing all the way from Olympia. Sandra Yanon, Dr. Sandy Yanon, I want to say good morning to you and thank you for being here. Sandy is the director of the Writing Center and has been a friend of Evergreen-Tacoma for decades, making sure that the quality of our writing programs are solid. And I just want to welcome you and say good morning, and I look forward to the portion in particular where you get to greet our author in residence and hear from her and exchange ideas. Thank you. Well, but today being our last day, and oh, look at that beautiful portrait. Natasha, you are forcing me to say good morning to you. Good morning. And this is our recruitment coordinator and our student affairs coordinator. Would you like to say a brief good morning to us and show us that portrait?
I just want to say good morning, and I'm super excited for today. I'm super excited for everyone that gets to hear from Dr. Mimms, as we've had her coming into our space a lot of times, but being virtual now, we get to share her with so many more people. So I'm excited for our new students to get a chance to hear from her, as well as our returning students, alumni, everyone in this space. So welcome, welcome.
Indeed. And Natasha will have a breakout room today. So if anyone is interested in registering, this is the last week of registration for fall quarter, but we welcome you if you do not have your degree. This is the time and the place. And I tell you, it has been an incredible opportunity to be a lifelong learner at Evergreen State College during this time, because we are able to lean in virtually. We're learning with different senses of our body. We're tuning in with our ears and our eyes in ways that before we could only do with our hands and with our sense. You know where I'm going with this. Dr. Mimms is going to take you there today because she happens to be our keynote speaker. I want to acknowledge and honor all of our fabulous alumni, let me say emeritus faculty I see here today. You know, Dr. Hardiman, you've been hanging tough for 5 weeks, and I'm so grateful that you are here today. Want to welcome you. And Dr. Betsy Diffendahl is in the house. Now, we don't get to hear much about Dr. Betsy Diffendahl, but she was there at the beginning. When those doors opened, she was there. And Dr. Hardiman talked about about her last week and how you all were sent back to get those PhDs. You see, we grow Evergreen from within. And that is what we are presenting to you in this 5-part series. It has been amazing. I want to also acknowledge any of our faculty who are here today. They are busy getting ready, and I am so excited. Dr. Gilda Shepard, Dr. Anthony Zaragoza, Dr. Oh, there's Dr. Zaragoza. Good morning. How's it going? Are you getting excited about fall quarter? That means yes, for sure you are. And we're so excited you're here. Also, Dr. McCrary was going to join us all the way from Taiwan, where I've just learned there are only 10 cases of COVID in Taiwan, in the entire country. So he's in a safe place. Dr. McCrary, have you had a chance to join us yet? And again, people coming from all over the world, we'll be patient with them coming. I see also Alma Constable. Oh my goodness, this is our prized environmental scientist, our own alumni at Evergreen-Tacoma. Good morning, Alma. Glad to see you. Glad you are here. And Michael Twiggs, we always remember you, Michael Twiggs. You brought to us that hydroponic gardening that we were going to get into just before COVID. So we look excited. We're very excited to bring you back into view. We're just excited for all of you to be here today. And I think I'm not going to take another moment to delay you because we are all here to hear from a legacy. Not only was the Evergreen State College, Tacoma, founded by Dr. Maxine Mimms, but there are several educational institutions that are named after her in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. At the tender age of 92, she continues to mentor several PhD doctoral students all over this country. She is beloved around the world, including Kenya, East Africa, where she participated in cultural reconnection delegations for over seven particular delegations, and is known as an elder to communities in Kenya. We are so pleased to say that Dr. Mimms began not only this institution, but most recently in her retirement for the last 15 years. You can join Dr. Mimms at her Conversation with the Elder in Seattle, which is now gone virtual and is available to the community. And we have found her in reach all over the United States once again. So she is a national treasure. She's most recently known for her project in art, which is Let the Strings Speak. This is a classic strings presentation that she brought to the Pacific Northwest that is presented for the last 5 years. Dr. Mimms had no problem switching from in-person to virtual learning. She continues to be the epitome of lifelong learning. And I give you what you came for, Dr. Maxine Mimms. Thank you, Dr. Mimms.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Virtual learning. Good morning. Let's take a few moments of silence, please, for the fire victims and COVID and families. Let's be silent for just a few moments. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for that introduction, Marsha, and thank you for the song. And all people, I see a lot of names. It's just very touching to be here in this room that I now call home. But I don't like to think of it as quarantine. I think of it as a place, a safe house for me for now. And it's just to look out on this machine. I don't know, it's my step granddaughter helps set me up. I don't know what this thing is. It's Zoom, and you should be sure don't touch this and don't touch that. If I touch something and you go away, I'll still be talking, but I'm here. I'm not going to touch anything. I really not. But this is wonderful. When Dr. Runga called me and asked if I would do this on the 15th of September, I didn't know what I wanted to say, because you all know I've told this story. I've told about how I started, and I'm getting older now. I don't even remember how I started. I don't even know if I started, you know. And what happens is you have to be very careful as you age. As pieces begin to leave your memory, you leave gaps. And they say, she didn't say so-and-so. Well, anything I don't say is I have forgotten it. It's gone. I may not even know that I am the founder of the college. But the joy of seeing all of you reminds me of what I had in mind. Many of you know that are close. Marilyn and Sally, hello. They were also faculty on the Tacoma campus, by the way, Marsha, and they're on. Many of you that know me know that I was born in Newport News, Virginia. That's the South. That's PRT, racial quarantine. That's where I did all of my elementary and undergraduate work. And I had a family that applauded me for anything that I did. My father allowed me to tell stories to him, and he would say, oh, I've never heard a story like that. They did not allow us to read any of the nursery rhymes that were put out by the European community. My daddy made up his own nursery rhymes. And I found out that later on in life that those nursery rhymes gave me a vivid imagination. I was a reader. I was a child that enjoyed reading. My mother was a reader right in front of us. And my sister enjoyed doing the housework. She loved washing dishes and cooking and holding up the glasses, and people saying, oh, look at that glass. Look at how beautiful Jordan. And I discovered something early in life. The better you are at anything, the more work you have to do. People don't say take time off. And I discovered if I would go in the kitchen and wouldn't wash the glass beautiful and clean, they would say, oh, let Maxine go. And I discovered never wash your glass clean, never cook, never clean out the bathtub. Let everything be disorganized and you won't have a lot of work to do. Therefore, I was allowed to read and have my imagination and just feel good being a Black child in the South. I never got a chance to be discriminated against individually because my father protected the family in such a way we didn't run into things. For instance, he told us we never rode the streetcar because on the streetcar and the buses you had to get in the back door, go up front and pay your money. So we walked. And my father told us getting in the back door would cause us to have terrible, terrible diseases. So we stayed away from the diseases. My father learned to quarantine us early away from the situation. So I grew up believing that things could be, and that you would have an imagination that would allow you to be applauded. I didn't have any idea that this was going to, later on in life, serve me well. And up to 1972, when I started the Tacoma campus, I've been here since 1953, so I've been here forever. And I started with the Seattle Public Schools and went from the Seattle Public Schools to the Richard Nixon administration as the assistant director of the Women's Bureau with Libby Coons. You have to get that image down. Born in the South, coming to Seattle, married, in love, going into education, then called upon to work. My father was a strong Republican. You must remember, in those days, there was only one political party in the South. And when Roosevelt came in, people that believed in the Marcus Garvey and all of those independent movements that Black people should go into business were all Republicans, a different kind of Republican. This is not a Republican party that you're talking about. This is a Trump party, so don't get it all mixed up. Nixon wasn't even a Republican party. It began to deteriorate. Liberal arts and technical trades were combined to teach the Black child. You do both. You learn both. You learn to do electricity, plumbing, lay bricks, and all to go along with the liberal arts. And that's how you had your agricultural and technical schools, and many of them are normal. But being born in Newport News, I was not very far from Hampton University. I think it's about, it would take us about 20 minutes to get there. So I met early in life some of the greatest people. Paul Robeson would see in Hampton, Roland Hayes, Marian Anderson. My father every Friday night would take us to hear these great speeches and great voices. So I came up believing that it's the invitation that allows learning to take place. Learning cannot take place unless you are invited to learn. You have to be invited into a silo that allows you to learn. Well, when I left the Nixon administration, I was recruited by Evergreen-Tacoma, many of the old deans that you all know, Merv Cadwallader, the late Charles Tess. And I knew that this was the right place for me because I was allowed to tell my stories and do the same thing I did as a child, just imagine all kinds of crazy stuff. And it was applauded. And I thought, oh, I didn't know white people, could applaud these stories. So I told more stories, and they told more stories. And next thing you know, we all were just lying and developing and organizing and applauding each other. And that Evergreen experience in Olympia stimulated me to remember that I was being crazy. I was driving from Tacoma past my own people that looked like me, to go all the way to Olympia. But at that time, I was being accepted. My stories were being accepted. I don't know whether it was Maxine, but my stories, and I could just tell them, and we could imagine all kinds. I remember so many programs that I wanted to be part of, and we would write these great things, and then we would go to each other's houses and the restaurants and just talk stuff. That was the curriculum. And talking stuff became the stuff that I had been born with. So my stuff from a child went to this stuff at Evergreen, and that's how the Tacoma campus started. Because I took the stuff that I learned as a child, and I invited people to join in my story and tell their story. And when you invite people to join with you with your story, then it reduces quarantine challenges. It reduces incarceration. It reduces the lockdown. We're in lockdown. We're in physical lockdown, we're in emotional lockdown, and we're in spiritual lockdown. And for many people, they have forgotten the stories that will bring them out of the lockdown. So the Tacoma campus was the beginning of de-emphasizing the fear and the anxiety of being unworthy. That's what this is all about. People who have skin coloring like mine feel unworthy in a society. You put it all on any kind of language. You can say systemic racism, you can say caste system, you can say race. It simply is the vulgarity of believing that your story is the only story. If you invite other people in with their stories and you combine them, you will find that there's so much unconditional love, and you can reduce the tension between the races, the age, all of the things that we're anxious about, and we can kill the virus that's in us. We cannot continually invite the virus to come and be around us and stay with us and believe that we must be locked down. We must each day of our lives, particularly now, do something for yourself that's unusual. Go to the refrigerator and drink out of the milk carton. Chew ice loud. Do something that's unusual. Go back to your childhood. Find some fun moment. Find a little trick you can play on yourself. But we've got to bring out during this time the stories for each other, not for self, but for each other. It's not a book club, but it's inviting people to join in your story because I love you, and they join in my story because they love me. We've got to increase the expansion of the invitation. And Marsha, and I want to tell you to invite you to be as the dean. We've never had a dean in Tacoma. This is very wonderful to see you, and I've known you since you were, and Joy et al. It's just wonderful, and to see all of my friends. Thank you for just even coming. And the Evergreen State College, Tacoma, is a story that I made up from childhood, and it came implemented as I got grown. So thank you. I'll spend some time answering questions and what have you. What should I do now? Yeah, Marsha.
Yes, I appreciate so much what you have shared with us about being affirmed, because I'm human development. That is my background. So when I hear you say that your family affirmed every story you told,
right?
Every moment of it, you became a stronger, more confident individual. And
yeah, I thought I could develop something or build something when I was 4. I mean, you have to apply, and we've got to start telling stories to each other now. Because if we take the quarantine, for example, or the virus, or the fires, everything is happening, we know that. But what can we pick out of that every day to say to somebody else? And we're gonna have to be careful that the technology, how do we now touch each other? How do we hug each other? How do we wake up and I say, let me send Marsha a hug today? We've got to do that, and we've got to call it out so we can hear us professing love. You cannot profess until you confess something about yourself. When you confess, I'm here. What can I profess to Marsha to make your day well? And we must talk to people every day on the phone. And everybody needs to get a flip phone.
A flip phone. I love it.
It's ancient. But when it pops up, there's a little noise for you. There's a little sound. You must have that own little private sound.
Dr. Mimms, and then I'll open it for Leah to bring out some questions. I also would like to ask you, what is it that you saw or what is the essence that you took from those conversations you were having with people in Olympia that you wanted to bring to Tacoma?
You have to hear, if I have a story, someone else has a story. Some of the stories I heard in Olympia were just as exciting as mine, and they would bring laughter. If you can have the stories together, or the joy of being with those images, then you can be successful. If your images are always anxious and challenging, you can't be successful. But you have to have joy in the development of something. You have to say, hard but fun, strange but fun. And you have to be able to laugh. And don't bother around with anybody that can't laugh. I mean, it'll kill you. You will die. You'll be a dead person walking. If you can't laugh, it's horrible. We've got to do some laughing. Maybe someone can make some sort of TV program where there's a 24-hour station of just laughing, all different sounds of laughing. Start early in the morning, then you plug in the station, call it the laughing station, and just laugh. Different sounds of laughter. There's some deep throat laughter. There's some laughter. And you can create. See, you can just create. Right after you finish laughing, Dale Marshall, you'd be surprised the curriculum you could put in if you turn right around and just do it. See, happiness, you buy stuff to be happy. Joy comes from internal. Joy is internal.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That's a gift to us, to laugh often. Leah, what do you think? Shall we pick up more question and answers? Do we see something in the chat, or are people raising their hands in the participants?
Let's see. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Mimms? Just raise a hand. You can raise your actual hand, or you can raise your hand in reactions, and I will call on you. No, not yet. Oh yes, hello, Karen, please go ahead.
And Marilyn too.
Yeah.
Karen,
good morning, everyone. Good morning, family. How's everyone doing?
Hello.
Karen.
Dr. Mimms, I'm back east, but I wanted to tune in and see how you were doing. But Dr. Mimms, how do we move forward in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of families that have already been involved with trauma and dealing with stuff and now being confined? How do we move towards a place of health and wellness? And how do we connect with them? Because they're so, they already detached, but now that we're in the midst of a pandemic, they're even more detached from our communities.
Stop repeating the word immediately, pandemic. Because it will engulf you in such a way you will be trapped. Not only will you be quarantined by the government, but you'll be trapped with your own quarantine. You don't want to self-quarantine right now. You want to bring yourself out. You want to know, you have to say it every day. I love myself so much that I want to live. I love Helen so much, I want her to live. Hello, Helen. You don't text her, you call her. I love you. And you just say it to every day. If we replace the word pandemic with I love you, I care about you, I was thinking about you, whatever style you want to use, and just tell a story for that particular moment, we will make it through. I'm 92. I've lived in the segregated South. You can't beat that kind of death and pandemic. What you have now is a society with all of the KKK riding, they're just not using the horses and they don't have on the hoods. That can kill you. You have to find ways. Stop using the word pandemic. Just stop it. Just spend a week not using it at all. And if you can, turn off your television. 1 week. Try 1 week to get rid of some of the things you've been accustomed to doing. and break some of your rituals and replace it with some new approaches. We're going to make it through this because you want me to. See, you want me to live for you, Karen. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? All right, so then don't tell me about a pandemic. Tell me about Karen. Let's have some conversation about that. You want me to live for you, and I want you to live for me. We've got to charge each other with living. We got to say, I charge you with living and not with death. Every day I get anywhere from 3 to 10 calls about who is in ICU, who just died, and whose memorial I'm supposed to speak at on Zoom. I'm refusing to do another memorial on Zoom. I did it in person. Now they're going to Zoom me through these funeral homes. Absolutely not. No, can't do it. Because I will buy into death in such a way that I can do nothing for you. I want to live.
Awesome.
I want to live until my wrinkles appear. They're getting there, so I think I got about 10 more years, and then they'll be nice and deep.
Thank you, Dr. Mimms.
Dr. Mimms, hi, I'm Dr. Lillian Robertson.
How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for who you are and what you bring to us. You were a great friend and a great motivator and instructor to my husband, who loved you dearly, and I've come to love you through marriage to him. And I just like to just confirm some of the things that you said this morning. I just celebrated a birthday, and for my birthday, I have 7 sisters, and they all flew in from Houston to be with me for this big birthday number that I celebrated. And it was amazing. It was a time where we shared, we told stories. We did not watch the news. We did not talk about the president. We did not talk about the pandemic. We told stories, we cooked, we walked, we were like little girls again.
That's right.
And it was amazing, the life force that came from that, the inspiration to be well, the inspiration, and we vowed that we would say, I love you to each other as often as we spoke. And so I just wanted to just share that with you, a personal experience that happened just this week. We put them back on the plane on Sunday morning and they went back to Houston. We had an amazing time, like we were children all over again. But the storytelling, the laughter, the saying I love you, the eating well, the building and supporting and professing that I need you. I need you to be here. I need you to be alive. Yes. So whatever I can do to strengthen that resolve in you, to keep going, to drink more water, to eat more vegetables, to walk. It was all about that. So that's a personal testimony to what you're saying. And it's an amazing experience. Thank you.
And this is what the college was based on. You invite people to return to their stories. We share, and you will live. And learning then takes place. And that's the key to what's so sad about the situation now. You've got to love people in order for people to learn. And that was the reason the college is still there.
One of the things that, and I'll quit with this, but one of the things that I have come to realize is people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. And I think you simplified that, Dr. Mimms. You've shown us that you care about us. You've spoken into our lives. Therefore, everything you have, we're ready to receive.
And that's why I live, because it's the interruption. It's the interruption of the anxiety that I could have by people like yourself that says, I'm fine, I send love to you, and I live. And every day, someone is saying, Maxine, live. You've got to demand that in order to live. And you've got to demand that in order to expand your knowledge, expand your learning. Yeah. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Okay. I think we have a question from Benita.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Mimms. It is so good as always.
Benita, I have on your hat.
I see that. I see see that. But it never looked so elegant until it became your crown. I started with a question, but then when I listened to what you said, a revelation came to me. My challenge as a grandmother and, watching my grandchildren as they move through school, they're now in grades 5 through sophomores in college, is that they often move in a cloud of disaffirmation. And, and so my original question to you was, how do we counter that? And then, I thought about the last few months and what had happened. And, for example, my youngest granddaughter, Leah, Leah, she loves you greatly. Leah is in ninth grade this year. And she has been struggling the last couple of years in middle school, and especially in math, like just almost failing. But from the time that her school went to distance learning through the end of the year, by the end of the year, Leah had straight A's. And so my revelation was this, is that she shifted from a school environment of disaffirmation to a family environment of affirmation. So, surrounded by her mother and sister and aunties who were able to daily tell her how brilliant she is and how accomplished she is and how math should be easy for her. And I told her that, she can manipulate any numbers when it comes to shopping, right? So she has math skills. But I think that there are often unexpected blessings that come when our environment shifts and the family becomes front and center versus some of the institutions being front and center. So any of your thoughts on that?
A Black child cannot learn unless the teacher loves her or him. And that's all and that's what's happening. Although many of our children are going to suffer, I'm teaching on a platform called Chrome. My grandchild, who is 6 years old, is Ted's daughter. And there's 50 of us around the machine. And, I am sitting here singing, oh, the mouse and the money went up the mill hill and the mouse. And she, and I have to, and I'm out of tune. I don't care. I'm with her. I love her. And therefore, she's going to learn. But this is a very challenging time for parents who are challenged in trying to get the curriculum that the state has designed. The language is too advanced for most families. It's a whole different day. We're going to have a serious, serious problem with learning, teaching and learning because of this condition that we have. And but if you can love them through it and let the story, and turn your house into an academic institution. When you're folding clothes, that's math. When you're vacuuming, that's geometry. When you are cooking, that's physics. And you just use the language. So, instead of saying, let's go into the kitchen, let's say, let's go into the physics lab. Turn the kitchen to the, let's go into the chemistry lab. And let the children, chemistry. It's a mixture of the salad and something. Vacuuming, the living room is smaller than the dining room. That's the geometry. Use the language of your child's grade just in your own house. Your clothing, selecting your clothing. Shoe size. Henry wears a size 14 and Helen wears a size 9. What's the difference? Whose foot is the largest? And turn that into a game. Do you think he will increase to size 15 next year? If you eat this, does it increase your suicide? And just turn your home. Do not allow the school to be to control your child. Now we have to control the child within the house, and you don't have to have any new curriculum. If you want to understand history, talk about your grandparents and all. Tell some of the stories from that period. You know, and if you don't remember anything, make it up. All you have to do is once upon a time. Once upon a time solved a whole bunch of stuff. You know, and tell them so that they won't get confused. Tell them, you know, it's like that girl that broke into that house. Who went to the woods and broke into the house, grandmother's house?
Goldilocks?
Yeah.
Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, she should be charged with a felony. Tell them the truth. It was breaking and entering. That story should go. Change it. You know, tell them why go. You know, that's a felony. And it's just wonderful. There are things we need to do to show love, and let the child laugh about you saying Goldilocks committed a felony, and make up a story that replaces that. And you can do it in your own home. Everything in your house is reading, math, chemistry, physics. Every academic piece is right there in your own home. Just turn it, as I said, just turn it into the language of the academy. Good to see you. Hello.
All right, I just want to acknowledge that there are several questions coming for you, Dr. Mimms. We've got Marilyn, Dr. Hardiman, NBMBAA by Linda, and I'm not sure if I'm going to say your name right, but Shamarsha. So Marilyn, if you want to go ahead and go first.
Can you hear me? Am I not muted?
Hi.
Hi. When Maxine was talking about love and traveling from Tacoma to Olympia and beginning her own campus in the Tacoma campus, inviting some of us faculty from Olympia to come up and teach there with her and her staff. It was an extraordinary experience for me to do that for many, many reasons. But the most important was when Maxine Mimms did what she called roll call. What Maxine did the very first day in this very large room, imagine nighttime, everybody's had a long day of work. They've come, they've had the snack to eat, and they all take their seats around 7 o'clock at night in the Tacoma campus. There might have been 50 people there, each in their chair with a little desk. And Maxine did roll call to this group of people. The average age might have been 40. And she would talk to them as if they were in kindergarten. She would say, okay, John, where are you, John? And there would be John, a 55-year-old man who probably owned his own car business. And she'd say, John, now stand up, John. Where'd you get that suit? I've never seen you in a suit like that. Everybody laughs. John talks to her about where he got the suit and sits down and says, good evening. Then she says, Mary, you stand up. Mary, this is Mary. Now, does anyone know Mary? Mary's really had a really hard time this year. She lost her mother and she's raising her own child, and we're going to support Mary. And Mary, you look good tonight. You just look good, and we love you, Mary. Now, Mary, did you bring those food I asked you to bring? You were going to bring me some chicken. Where is it? Now, listen, you're not getting away with not bringing me any chicken. And she spoke to every single person, personally, teasing, laughing, welcoming. For I would say roll call was actually the class. It lasted maybe 40 minutes. Now you go to on the Olympia campus, they don't even know who's in the room. Nobody does roll call. They just count. Okay, there's 30 people here. We're missing about 5. We'll figure that out later. Whereas Maxine did not do that. She knew every person, knew their history, knew their stories, and made it part of the teaching. The curriculum was added. You might learn science. You might learn how to be a lawyer, but the real teaching happened in roll call. Thanks, Maxine.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Hardiman.
Okay, all right, here we go. Hello. Hey, Dr. Mimms, how are you?
I'm good, Joy. And you?
I'm really good. Well, Marilyn and Sally kind of were right in the vein that my question was in, which is, could you tell us some stories about who those early students were at the Tacoma campus and what you learned from them as you were co-storytelling? Yeah.
Who they were predominantly older students, and many of them were military. So when they came in, back to the thing of how you develop organizations, and that's why you cannot do something called recruitment. You cannot recruit, you have to invite. It's the invitation that causes people to want to come. So you have to invite a man that was a sergeant major. And he'll say that I had a lot of sergeant majors, and they were very straight, very orderly, but they didn't feel worthy as they came back to the civilian life. They wanted to make a contribution to society, but they didn't feel what they were going to make. If you've been a cook in the military for 30 years, and Maxine Mimms tells you, look, you are just a chef, you don't feel worthy of that word chef. You're only worthy of the word cook. And it's very hard to help you transfer yourself, your own image, from something called a cook to chef. Cook is unworthy, chef is worthy. So I spent a lot of time helping them to get the image and the storytellers of what does a chef look like. Let's go to the restaurant, practice being a chef. Come on, take me to dinner and take me to lunch. I'm going to introduce you to a chef. And I would sometimes just ride with some of them. It was a lot of men and women who had been declared in the society as unworthy. They were older students. And my job was to make them feel worthy. You must remember, all I was interested in was coming in, that's access, staying, changing the image, changing who you are from unworthy to worthy, writing the story about the transition to worthiness, and I have those autobiographies now. There are two ways to teach Black people, and that's autobiographical and biographical. And once you can get that out, then you're going to be successful with your own image. You cannot teach unless the learner is interested in learning, and you cannot learn unless someone loves you enough to help you learn. Mm-hmm. And you've got to always deal with language. That's why right now, instead of parents feeling that they're unworthy in the house as they teach their child, just, stop calling the kitchen. Hell, kitchen is just a word, and just say we're going to the chemistry lab. And once the child knows they're in a chemistry lab and stirs up the salad and puts the gravy on, whatever you do, then that's a whole different image. Language is what draws the picture. We've got to get the brush and the canvas and begin to paint on ourselves and paint on others. We're all the artists. We have to have a renaissance of the spirit in order to allow for the Tacoma campuses of the world to succeed. And what did I learn from their stories? They became my teacher. I was not their teacher. We did not become co-equals or anything like that, but they began to teach me how, as a male or as a female, as you transition, how love does survive it all.
Right, yes, thank you.
It was very, very difficult because right. I had to delayer a lot of my image. I had to not see people as unworthy. And education, often you think you've been trained to be, quote unquote, the professor, and so you got something to profess. I don't have anything to profess unless there's a relationship in terms of the images. So that I learned a lot about transitioning and delayering, getting rid of some of the things that I stereotypically had held on to for a number of years, and to get rid of that. And by the way, you must do that, and that'll help you even during now. You've got to every day wake up during this period and getting rid of some of that language that will hold you. Oh, let me turn on the TV. Well, no, let's turn it off. Oh, let me, no. Get rid of it, because you'll be trapped in somebody else's bubble if you aren't careful.
Right. And one more thing, Dr. Mimms, can you share with people, because what you're talking about with the students relates to those 5 points on your PhD. You had a brilliant kind of understanding about the transitional stages that that particularly Black adult learners have to go through, starting with knowing, starting with that autobiographical self, and then moving into the biographical self of who the other was. And what, can you just speak about that for a second? Because people don't know that that was so foundational to, you know, to
the principles. Well, my focus was on, and I listened to you last night, my focus was on, in higher ed, what's in your family, what's in your neighborhood that allows you to be the person that you are. There is, and I heard you last night say Plato, blah, 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 that was wonderful. But all of the educational people, all of the educational curriculum that wiped your people out. When you go to school in the first grade, your whole identity, kindergarten, your whole identity is taken away. Your family has been calling you Maxine, 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 and you move to that. When you go to kindergarten, the teacher says, boys and girls, your identity gets thrown out of the window when you line up. You become a boy and girl. Your identity is in there. Line up, boys and girls. And for the rest of your life, it's boys and girls until they, and the line teaches you how to line up in prison. The line teaches you how to always be in the line, always be in the line, always be boys and girls. So if you're boys and girls, the identity is stripped. There's no more Maxine. Then when you're introduced with the book, with Dick and Jane, it replaces Geraldine, my sister, and Richard, my brother. Dick and Jane become my brother and sister. And when I look at them, I'm saying to my Richard and Geraldine, if they don't look like Dick and Jane and then some raggedy dog with Spot, so my family becomes Dick and Jane and Spot, not Richard and Geraldine, whom I love. So they are replaced. And it's that replacement factor that continues and continues. And what I wanted to do in Tacoma was to replace your family and your neighborhood, your friends, everybody. I wanted to find the advocates, safe houses and all, and get that language in such a way that you could love yourself. Once Dick and Jane and Spot replaces your family, you're gonna die. Your spirit dies. And to find Maxine requires a lot. And that's why when Marilyn talked about the roll call, that's why the roll call is important. Because when you can stand up and talk about your suit, and you got on a white shirt and a navy blue suit and a red tie, you are there long before the outfit coming from Donald Trump. You will not even believe he's worth it because you did it first. You had on a blue suit, a red tie, and you walk. You are your own being. You're your own president because of the blue suit. You see, with curriculum can replace your family. In the Black church, you don't need to go. You don't need to go all over the world to find icons. You can go into the the basement of the Black church and go in the archives and get all the obituaries. And that's the history sitting right there. Your mother's history, your daddy's history, your granddaddy, your neighbors. And once they become historical figures and walk proud and are worthy, oh my gosh. That's it.
Yeah, and you were one of the first people in your dissertation. That was one of your 5th points, was that people, first of all, had to know who they were and love who they were. People had to, secondly, know who the other was, so that they would be able to negotiate, defend, whatever. Then people had to develop some collateral work of themselves, and then and only then could they do collaborations and allies. But people always had to remember, your 5th point was that in our community there are people who paint like Picasso, think like Plato, and do something else like that. And that insistence was at the core of not only you, but of the campus and its development. And probably one of the toughest battles you had with Olympia, who didn't think that they were geniuses, who didn't think
it didn't matter. But it didn't matter. You see, I'm not going to spend time and energy trying to, mine is pro-Black. I'm bringing those advocates or allies or abolitionists that are going to support me in that image. I'm not worried about trying to deal with that. Olympia was not, I didn't worry about negotiating because there were so many people that were advocates with me that understood what I was doing. And the love for that is that, you see, things like equity and exclusivity and all of that, I didn't come up with that language. My father said, kill it and move on with the image. Tell the story. And the way I tell the story of equity and inclusivity is be it. I'm not going to spend any time disputing whatever, you don't live to be 92 raising hell with a bunch of people in Olympia. They could, they could kill you. I'm not going to do that. That's for you to do. The next generation.
I'm retired. Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Mimms. Really appreciate your wisdom.
And thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the years. Thank you for all the years.
For sure. And also, thank you. It's a blessing. Yeah.
Oh, what a tender moment. Thank you. Short, but we have to hear from Belinda, because that is our prize student, one of the people you talk about that we say, stand up. So go ahead and take your question, Belinda.
Praise God. First of all, I want to give honor to God. And of course, I want to give honor to everybody that's here, and especially Dr. Mimms. I'm back in my Bible, and I'm back at prayer, and the Holy Spirit is just, every time, I come in contact right now at this convocation, I've been so filled with the Holy Spirit and so thankful for what God is doing. And so I know God don't give us a spirit of fear. And I know you spoke about being sheltered, Dr. Mimms. Your father kept you sheltered and kept you safe away from things. And as far as me being a single mother with my son, and I've been really going through a spirit of fear. I've been fearful because my son is in college. He wanted to go back. He's in Wazoo, and my pastor, who I grew up under, is Pastor Ivory Crittenden. He's no longer here. He's been the person that I've been able to go to and cry to. And he's been able to pray me through things as a single mother right now. And with my son wanting to go back to college, and I praise God because I've I was praying and praying and crying out to the Lord, because in my spirit, I didn't feel like he needed to go back to college. And then it comes, and then next thing you know, they calling the National Guards in, because all the kids that went back to the dorms came up with the COVID. And I thank God that my son on his own decided not to go back, because he's 20 years old. He's in his third year of college. I don't want to sit there and overwhelm him and try to be like I'm over him and try to tell him what to do. I want him to have his own decisions and make his own decisions. But I thank God that he stepped in and stopped my son from going back. So he's here with me. And with this police brutality, all this stuff, I'm scared. He done went out and got his driver's license, and I'm scared to let him even go out the house and drive. He's an athletic. He's a wrestler. He's in college on a scholarship for wrestling. He got to continue to train, but I'm so afraid to allow him to leave the home. And I know the Bible tells us that we shouldn't have the spirit of fear. You know, I grew up on the Bible more than the news. My pastor told me to open the Bible. And every time I step outside, I try to figure out what part of Revelations are we living in.
That's right. Yes.
You know, I got 5 children. The best gift that I gave them was, my pastor taught me, was education. They all had a chance to go to college. Now, whether they finished or not, that was on them. But they had the opportunity to go and to come to know God. That's all they know. So right now, I'm just sitting here battling, you know, with my son, my only son. And my pastor's gone.
Okay,
So
was there a question for me? Do you want me to comment on what you just said?
I want you to talk about, I gave you my concerns about my son with this police brutality, with this COVID, with him being in college, you know, with a girlfriend at Wazoo, wanting to go back to her.
All right, your literature, you've been trapped in the images, and you gotta let go. Number one, I knew Crittenden. In fact, I was the principal at his school, the academy. I was there. I knew Reverend Crittenden. We were friends for years. You're trapping yourself. You've got to compliment the great work you've done, and there's no such thing as a single mother. I'll explain that someday when you call me. But you've got to compliment the great work you've done. When you started out with the challenges of the son, a single mother. I'm thinking as I'm listening, and that's why you have to just listen and hear. You went to 5 children, the only son. That means the others are girls. You've got to compliment the job that you've done for these 5 children. You've got to write a story about every last one of them today. How great he is, how he's grown in the last 3 months, I don't know. How safe he is, what his teeth look like, how his eyebrows are brown or turned up. You've got to turn him into a handsome king today, a handsome prince today. And you've got to become the royal mother today. And you call me later. I'll give you my phone. You've got to compliment yourself today, and you got to get off that boy's back and let him be a prince today, because you're the greatest queen that there is. Just turn this story around. Let the queen, let her prince be, and all the little princes. And the story needs to be written today, and it needs to be read to all 5 of them this evening at the dinner table. That image has to be done today. You're trapped in a bunch of images that will hurt you. I don't know what the police brutality, you got your check, he's got COVID and the policeman, you got too much on yourself about him. Your imagination is way out there. So let's work together today and get this taken care of. You've got to write. You got to write. Okay, I'm going to ask you to do this right now. What is great about him?
He loves his mom.
No, I don't want that. That's storybook mess. What is great about him?
He's determined.
So the story this evening is about what are images that look like something that's determined? What does a person who's determined look like? Just one word. Right. You find the word and we'll talk about it. We've got to get some adjectives on him, some adjectives on yourself, so we can have a week. This is Tuesday. You'll be in good shape by Saturday. Okay.
That is what we call one-on-one instruction at Evergreen State College, Tacoma. Dr. Mimms, thank you so very much. How rich that exchange was. I know that we've gone over, but we just need to have that. We want everyone to stay with us as we go into another part of our learning. And I think this is it. TaRessa's going to be able to pick it up from here. I want to invite you to listen to our author in residence extraordinaire. She has shown up and given us some of the most beautiful, deep lessons in just less than 20 minutes. We get to hear from her, and we will circle back to our give back for Dr. Mimms because we have heard a lot. So we're going to do some absorption right now, and we're going to go to this brilliant woman called TaRessa Stovall. TaRessa, I want to acknowledge you for the work you have done and what you're about to do. I want to greet you all the way over there in Maryland, and I want to ask you to address us for the final time, not only as our writer, our author in residence, but also as an alumni of Evergreen. TaRessa Stovall.
Thank you, Dr. Tatarunga. Well, I have to begin. I'm going to cry. I'm just going to warn you. I'm going to cry. I got some tissues because, whew, anyway, the Queen Mother. Yes. Yes. I'm just so honored. I got 5 pages of notes. Oh my God, biggest hugs. The Queen Mother, the goddess, the woman, one of the women who is foundational in everything I am and do and think and feel. And now I got new material to download and meditate on and just digest. I'm just, oh my God, Dr. Maxine, all the love. You don't even know. Can we get a phone call? Can I get a phone call? Okay, now I'll be professional. All right, because I'm just still floating and flowing and just so full from all of this wisdom. There are 2 ways to teach Black people, autobiography and biography. What? Can I get a tattoo on my forehead? That is awesome. So I think Trey has my sides. But today, the final day, this is for all of the students. Thank you, Trey. All of the students who, and anybody else who wants to write autobiography, speaking of autobiography, biography, memoir, your story. And we've talked about finding your voice to tell your story, in this case, in the written realm. We played with music. We had our special guest, Mario Reyes, last week to share his amazing writing. And I'm bringing you tips from the pros, from professional writers, and what I call tricks of the trade. So, but in a playful way. So the final thing I want us to do with love is to give yourself grace and space to explore the writing process. What a lot of people don't understand is that writing anything, a poem, a paper, a thesis, a dissertation, a book, a movie, a play, anything you write, a song, is a process. And it is a process of initiation, and it will change you. It will change you, guaranteed. It is terrifying. It is, I've told you before, it's hard. It's hard. It's supposed to be hard. But in all of the challenge and the difficulty it's a means of growing and expressing yourself, and couldn't have had a better lead. And again, to Dr. Queen Mother Maxine Mimms, talking about the power and the necessity of story. And I remember, and it's in my book, when she threw me up in front of the class at Evergreen-Tacoma and said, "Tell your story." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." What? Nobody had ever done that before. And that was life-changing. That was life-changing. It was empowering. It was challenging. It was everything. So give yourself grace and space. And we're going to talk today about first drafts, because whatever you're writing, there needs to be a first draft. And I'm going to teach you some things about the first draft that you might not have learned in traditional education or just out in the world. Okay, Trey. Okay, so Secret Writing Weapon. This is another book I totally recommend for any kind of writing. It also has lots of wisdom for life. This is the 25th anniversary edition. It's a book called Bird by Bird by a woman named Anne Lamott. And I know that I can't use language here, so I've changed the adjective she uses to describe the first draft to raggedy, because I like the term raggedy, but she has a slightly more profane and fun word. Raggedy first draft, okay? So she's popularized this. You can literally just Google the something first draft. You can find that out. Just put Anne Lamott Bird by Bird first draft. There's memes, there's entire documents you can download, there's probably websites. But anyway, I'm gonna use raggedy. So this is what she says in part of it in her book. For me and most of the other writers I know, writing is not rapturous. In fact, the only way I can get anything written at all is to write really, really raggedy first drafts. In the first draft, you let it all pour out, and then you let it romp all over the place, knowing that no one's going to see it and that you can shape it later. Your first draft is what you have to create so that you can build and you can refine and everything else. That's your first draft. It's supposed to be funky. It's supposed to be raggedy. It is not supposed to be good. It's not supposed to be pretty. It's not supposed to be impressive. You should not even impress yourself, let alone anybody else and all the voices in your head. It just needs to be there, and you should expect it to be raggedy. That is where your expectations should be, and that's what your goal should be. Okay, Trey. Okay, so one of the enemies that we all get from different places, sometimes we're born with it, sometimes it comes in our DNA, sometimes it's given to us in our families and or our schools, our teachers, perfectionism, right? So what Anne Lamott says about perfectionism is it's the voice of the oppressor, the enemy of the people. It will keep you cramped, and it is the main obstacle between you and your raggedy first draft. Perfectionism will ruin your writing. Write that down. Perfectionism will ruin your writing, blocks your inventiveness and your playfulness and your life force. It's a mean, frozen form of idealism, and your best friend is actually a mess. You want to make a mess, especially with your first draft. So I have that cute little Crayola drawing, but you want to make a mess. It's supposed to be messy. It's supposed to be funky. It's supposed to be raggedy. Okay, that's really, really important to know and to embrace and to understand. So you got to make a mess. That's your best friend. That's your most powerful weapon. Is that mess? Big scrawls. She says, go ahead and make big scrawls and make mistakes. Make a lot of mistakes in your first draft. Okay. As she said, when we're children, we need to make messes to find out who we are while we're here, and by extension, what we're supposed to be writing. I want to go back again to Dr. Mimms, this amazing story about her childhood and how her father and family love vaccinated her essentially against the environment, and how in today's world, all of the parents, the millions and millions of parents who are so challenged with virtual learning, et cetera, she's right. Throw that out. Just, again, let your kids make a mess in the kitchen. I could just picture a mess in the kitchen and we made a muffin or something like that. We made a cookie, and you've done math, you've done science, you've done geography, geometry, and everything else. But make a mess with your writing. And it's hard. You're going to be fighting yourself to get rid of the perfectionism but it's got to be, and you want to impress people. I get it. You want to impress people. You want to impress yourself. You want to read and go, oh my God, am I brilliant or what? Even if you're only saying that to yourself. With luck, you'll say that, but only after some revisions and some editing. Okay, Trey. Okay, so why are you writing, right? It's really important to get to your why, especially when you're doing any form of autobiography. And again, keeping with Anne Lamott, we write to expose the unexposed, right? You got to shine a light on the darkness, but you got to stay in the darkness while you're there. If there's one door you've been told not to go through that door. That's the door. And you're going to be terrified. It's so funny. I have friends who talk to me about writing, or clients. They call me up. Well, it doesn't come easy for me like it does for you, TaRessa. I'm like, easy? Are you crazy? It is hard every single time. It is excruciating, but it's a form of hardness and excruciating and initiation that I embrace, that I understand is what I do and who I am. But it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's painless. It doesn't mean it goes quickly or smoothly or anything else. We need to disabuse ourselves of those notions. It's funky, it's raggedy. She says it's the writer's job to see what's behind that door you've been told not to go through, to see the bleak, unspeakable stuff and turn that into words. That's your story. And you can't do that without discovering your own true voice. Pam will make them downloadable. I'll work with Trey to make all my slides downloadable from the series. Your own true voice, right? To go through the door, see the bleak, unspeakable stuff, turn that into words. You're going to scare yourself. You're going to be scared. Remember in the first couple sessions, I talked about prepare for that. If you might be going into some trauma zones, put your support circle in place, family, friends, therapists. You know, I do cinema therapy, movies and TV, that kind of thing, whatever. Line them up, music. Whatever you do, bubble baths, whatever your thing is, acupuncture, seriously, get a massage, do a facial, whatever it is, friendly voices. Call your friends, text them, say, yo, I'm gonna be going to this place. I might need to hit you up, be ready, that kind of thing. Do that ahead of time, because it can get rough. It can get rough, it probably will get rough, especially when you're telling your truth, you know, and the truth of your experience can only come through in your own voice. So here's all this pressure, your own true voice, your own true voice, your own true voice, right? You can't write out of someone else's big dark place. You can only write out of your own. You know, blowing bubbles. Okay, Sandy. Blowing bubbles is very healthy and lovely. You can't write out of, playing, anything playful, the more play, the better. You can only write out of your own dark space. So you got to expose the unexposed, go through the doors you've been kept away from, you know, put the bleak, unspeakable stuff into words, speak it, write it in your voice. That's your voice. That's your truth. Okay, Trey. Okay, so here's your homework. Make a mess, for real. Make a mess, scribble, scratch, scrawl, just let it out. Do not censor yourself. You got to get rid of all the censorship, especially in first draft. You know, you let it all out. Don't hold back. And another hard part, and the more quote unquote educated you are, the harder this is, suspend all judgment. Forget all the styles that you've been taught and all the rules that you've been taught. And that's hard. I know it's hard. But you can do it. You can overcome it. Play, dance, sing, scream, whatever. Sometimes I eat dark chocolate because that helps my muse. So find out what your muse likes. Suspend that judgment. Make that mess. Forget punctuation. Forget grammar. Forget sentence structure, seriously. Forget all of that. And you're going to be like, how can I forget that? I've been programmed my whole life. So that's part of the challenge of finding your own creativity, expressing your own creativity. And just to keep the theme of the day and the theme of our keynote, do it with love. Love is essential. Love yourself, love your mess, love what you're creating, love the process of creating a mess, because the magic is somewhere in there. Forget perfectionism. Perfectionism is not your friend. The mess is your friend. Forget bits. And this is really hard, especially if you are accustomed to being seen as accomplished or talented or really smart, which I've now included all of you in this, well-educated, sophisticated. Forget fancy language, readability, impressing anybody. Forget polysyllabic words, no SAT words, unless they come out organically. And how often do SAT words come out organically? Those come later in your rewrites, in your edits. That's where the process happens. And so sometimes I liken writing to like building a house. So you're just right now, you're digging up the land. You're digging up the dirt. Maybe you got to get rid of a tree or move it or cut it back or something. This is, you look and say, oh my God. And you're throwing stuff in the dumpsters and you can't walk. This is where you are now. That's your writing process. So you're going to make a mess. You promise me you're going to make just a glory, and you're going to celebrate the mess. You're going to celebrate the process, reward yourself. You know, if it brings out your inner drama person, fine, be drama. Again, call up those people you know and say, look, I'm going to be a little extra. Just be there for me. You know, I'm going to have to do whatever. Do what you need to do. You know what you need. Your spirit knows what you need. Your brain knows what you need. But you got to kind of, there are many parts of your brain you have to put on hold. Sometimes I use the image of I send that part of my brain or myself on a worldwide cruise with no end date. There's a couple of them I got to go find and retrieve, but seriously, that helps for me. That little image helps for me. I call them Jaja when they're really extra. And I'm like, okay, Jaja, you need to get on the boat and go on a cruise and, hit me up. But just to get over myself, because getting over ourselves is 99% of all of this, right? Because we're so whatever, and you got to get under all that and get to the dirt, and you can't plant unless you're in soil. So messy soil grow. And like I said, this is the gift to yourself. Look at it like a gift to yourself, and love and truth, authenticity. That's what you're striving for. And they're all inside of you. So it's a kind of an internal excavation process where you're throwing stuff out, or at least putting it on the side, putting it on hold. It's that internal excavation process that you go through where you're like, okay, how do I find what I'm trying to do? I told y'all, I spent 5 years writing a book. I know how to write. I can usually write pretty efficiently. This was my memoir, kicked my behind at every word, every sentence, every paragraph for 5 years. It was unrelenting. It was crazy, right? It was definitely an initiation on several levels. But the point is, I had to keep going because remember, my memoir was a non-negotiable assignment from my ancestors. Literally, like I would try to, nope, they're like, nope, that's really nice. Get on the computer, boo, you got work to do. So find that nugget. Find why are you writing? Why do you write? Who are you writing for? Oh, another tip, it's not on here, but another tip is to picture somebody. You can even find somebody in your life if they're still on the earthly plane, if they're an ancestor, cool, that's cool too. Write to them. You can even start it off with dear so-and-so, right? And it could write it like an email, write it like a social media post, write it like a letter, a postcard, a card, something intimate, as if you're talking to them. For a lot of people who are elders, I'm like, write it for your grandkids. Write that for your descendants so that 7 generations down, there'll be a book, a video, a something that they can say, this was Queen Mother Max. Oh my God, wow, she started a school because because her daddy applauded her. Right? I mean, that right there, that's the nugget of an epic miniseries, seriously. So when you find, and you won't always know what the nuggets are, so later on you'll get feedback and all that kind of good stuff. But right now, you're just writing your way to your truth. You're writing your way to the magic of your story. And everybody's story is magical. Everybody's ancestral legacy, as bumpy and challenging and sometimes ugly and yucky as it might be, is what makes you who you are. All of the people's lives make you who you are. All the people's life choices make you who you are. And you, again, back to what Dr. Maxine said, you have to love yourself. You got to love all that. So get it out, make a mess, be a mess for a hot minute. Let yourself be the mess while you're making the mess, because you will be. So just be proactive about it. And really, that's it. I mean, that's the essence of what I wanted to share about this beautiful, crazy, life-changing process. But when your story is out in the world, it's going to lift somebody. It's going to heal somebody. It's going to be a window and a mirror, to go back to one of the images that Dr. Joy Hardiman gave me 42 years ago. A window and a mirror that simultaneously, because that is essential in your work. You want it to be a mirror, but you want it to also be a window. Again, what Dr. Mimms was talking about, how we frame the times we're in, the language, the approach. I'm not in a pandemic. I'm not on quarantine. I'm chilling in my fabulous apartment and you know, staying safe from people's germs, but hey, whatever. So how we frame our stories is everything. You have all your power, your ancestral power, your higher power, you know, and your life, your truth, all of that, boom. It is magical. So allow yourself, but the magic is in the mess. So make a mess, be a mess, and do it with love and extreme self-love, because that's your biggest tool. And I just want to thank all of you. I have a little goodbye slide. Thank you. So I want to thank you all for your time. You're so inspiring. I spent the whole week like, what am I going to share? What am I going to tell them? Oh my God. And then on Monday nights, like at 2 a.m, East Coast time, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do PowerPoint. So that's fun too. But if you want to connect, Facebook page, TaRessa Stovall. I have an author page, brand new, so like it. Twitter and Instagram on TaRessa Talks. And if you want to read my 5-year memoir, Swirl Girl, Coming of Race in the USA. I have an independent Black club publisher I'm really happy to be working with here in Atlanta, and it's just my name, TaRessaStovall.com. But I'd love to be connected with y'all. I am a social media addict. I was a social media addict before Corona, so you can imagine now. I'm way worse. My phone tells me, oh, your screen time is up. I'm like, why are you harassing me? So, love you all. I appreciate you. And Dr. Maxine, I am still absolutely floating. The only thing, I just want to give you a hug and go have some soul food. So, yes, love to all of you, and Wakanda forever. Thank you.
Wakanda forever. What a great way to end.
Oh my God, I see what you got.
I don't want you, this might be one of the first books, yes, of which I am actually chapter 1.
You are chapter 1, Arunga.
Yes.
That book came out 20 years ago. My gosh.
This is me and my family, and what an honor to have been in one of your 9 publications. TaRessa is a prolific author, and what great advice you've brought to us. Well, you know, we brought Sandy, Dr. Sandy Yanon from Olympia, to make some comments. Let's hear what you have to say, Sandy. What are your thoughts about this presentation today?
Oh, I've taken a breath, and I'm overwhelmed with the love and the wisdom, for sure. I've been jotting down some notes, so I'll go through them. I'm a very non-linear, curious thinker. So bear with me, my friends. Bear with me. First of all, I want to say thank you to my dear friend, Dr. Marcia, and for inviting me to be with you all today. And what an honor to be with Dr. Mimms. And I want to just say shortly, the first time I ever met Dr. Mimms, I was asked, I was much younger than I am now, to do a workshop on journaling in a program that you were teaching with Cabby Mitchell. And it was in the Cedar Room of the Longhouse one early evening. Never forgotten it. And there I was, invited to teach something about journaling. And I walked out of there learning more about writing probably than anybody in the room, from everything that the students and you and Cabby had shared that night. I've never forgotten it. That was my first introduction to you and with you, and every single interaction I've had, I have vowed to be a learner, a listener. And so I want to thank you for all that you have shared and accomplished with so many. Your legacy is here in the room. I'm sitting with you all at my kitchen table. because I think the kitchen table is where so many things happen. And it's not just my kitchen, but it's my library. I've turned it into my library. It's my writing lab. Behind me, I curate every week different books for myself that I want to look at all the time. And I don't know if you could see up there, but one of my favorites is Audre Lorde, warrior poet. And I share this almost every time I'm on the call with you all, anytime I'm in Tacoma. Every office I've ever had, and I have to say, I love being in my home and teaching and learning from my home far more than I enjoy being in my office at the college in Olympia. I'm going to be honest with you all, because everything I need is in my home. I've learned that during this time since March. But anyway, every door, and I have another one over here, I always have this postcard of Audre Lorde to inspire me. I've had it one every single time since I was in graduate school. And Audre Lorde says, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it matters less and less whether I am afraid. I've been afraid many, many times for many, many reasons in my life, but poetry has been the thing that's lifted me up. And all the things that Dr. Mimms and all the people viewing and sharing today, and certainly TaRessa, wow, everything that you said really resonated with me. That's how I teach. The points that you made are precisely the things that I teach on the Olympia and Tacoma campus with the co-learners, the people who teach me, all about the mess, all about your voice. I teach a class called Cultivating Voice. So I resonated with everything you saw, and you could see, because all I did was comment in the chat. I want to just echo a few things back to what Dr. Mimms said to reflect and remind you. Well, one, an imagination allows you to be applauded. Okay, she said that. I want to just repeat it. I want you to hear it, take it in. It's the invitation that allows the learning to take place. When Dr. Mimms said that, I almost jumped out of my chair, but I withheld because I didn't want anybody to see that happen on Zoom. And the reason why is because for years, I have been renaming the language of academic writing in the Cultivating Voices class. I don't say, here's your assignment. I say, here's your writing invitation. And there's many, and those of you, I know there are quite a few of you on the call who have talked, who have taken Cultivating Voices. You know that we spend much time renaming and reclaiming the language to make it work for our stories, and not to continue to oppress and suppress our voices. Do something for the self that is unusual. Find a trick you can play on yourself. That's the play of writing. That's the play of writing. It is very, very hard work. There's no question about it. I don't want to take up much more time. I really just wanted to echo these things that I heard that really spoke to me. But I wanted to just end with two more points. One is, in March, I started a live open mic on Facebook. My sister was very concerned that I was going to be depressed by the fact that all my live poetry readings were evaporating before my very eyes. And she said, well, let's just start a forum. Well, we now are an international, intergenerational, intersectional group of over 1,800 people that gather every single week on Facebook for some kind of poetry reading with people from all over the world. And so I invite all of you to join us. I'll put it in the chat. I couldn't have imagined it, but there was that invitation that she said, let's invite people to gather and to tell their stories. And hearing people's poetry from all over the world for these past 25 weeks has been the thing that's kept me alive. Not the news, not the news. Yeah, not the news. I don't even listen to the news. I have turned my TV off long ago. But it's been hearing the stories. So I want to end with a very brief poem of my own as a thank you and hopefully a little bit of an inspiration to all of you. And I dedicate this to each of you, wherever you are joining us from today. It's called The Next Open Space. We think it's about our footing, planting the fleshy parts solid to ground, taking it one step at a time, whatever it is. I try to remember this as I comfort my brothers and sisters as they migrate to spaces that feel closed before reached. I have been there, outside in that dark that redefines dark, without words, lifting my feet or voice, impossible. And yes, it is our daily dance that offers to turn us toward the next open space, teaching us that there is so much more than what we perceive under our feet, breathing, the ground rising, rising all around us like immaculate glass cities. Look up, always look up. And remember this about the next open space. There is always more than one. There is always more than one. I thank you. It's been a blessing to be with you all today. I send you love and peace from Olympia.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Great way to end. And also any further questions we might have. Leah, I'm going to turn it over to you. And then we'd love to do a give back in which our faculty who are present, we would love for them to say some final concluding and maybe opening fall remarks for our community. So this is a celebration. Leah?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to try to get to a couple other folks who didn't get their chance earlier. So let's see. Tracy, I know that you had some questions, and I want to just, I was hoping I could find where you had spelled out.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Dr. Mimms, I adore you. I think you know that already. I am so grateful. So my name is Tracy Harrell. I'm president of the Seattle chapter of the National Black MBA Association. That is not my claim to fame. I am a student of my people. I actually was exposed to Dr. Mimms through Don Mason, and I've had a chance to have a couple sessions with Joy Hardiman. And I tell her, I feel like, you know, you don't know you're an arid desert, but something starts to rain on you and you just want to soak it all up. That's how I feel when I'm in your presence and when you're speaking. So I feel like I'm getting my next level education. First of all, thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, I am being guided by the spirit. I'm doing exactly what I was meant to do. So I spent 25 years in corporate America, 8 years at IBM, 14 years at Disney, my last 5 at Microsoft. I had this equity and inclusion situation, right, where I've always fought for justice. And most recently, you know, what we've been doing is doing exactly what you said, telling stories and really trying to do it all in love, not trying to, doing it all in love. My question is, at what point, so, and I love what you said about the invitation, because I was just about to pivot. We have a 6-session series. We've done 3 sessions, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9. I would invite you and Dr. Joy and anyone in this space to our 10-10 session, because Dr. Joy introduced me to this concept of Sankofa, right? This idea of looking back in order to, you know, move forward. And so we've been inviting people, but then we've also had conversations about the demand. So my question is, how do you move from telling your stories? We focused on advocates and allies last time. We got a number of white people who are like in it to win it. At what point do you say, corporate America, if you can't acknowledge, right, the challenges that exist, unconscious bias, unequal performance standards, at what point do you make the demand? How do you transition from telling the stories lovingly to saying, okay, that's just not a safe place to work?
Dr. Mimms?
Well, Tracy, being in corporate America, you have internalized their language, and it's hard for you to step out of that. Spend some private time with yourself and take a piece of the language that you're using, that you've been trained to use, and go to what TaRessa said, and reimagine. Just, if you pick 3 words a week and delay them, got them out of your cell, get them out of your DNA. You cannot let your imagination flow unless you also simultaneously drop some of this stuff. You are, if you're trained to be a white man, you stay that way for a long time and you don't know it. So you may be a white man, and write it down. If you're trapped in that and you don't know it, it's an unconscious thing. If you're trapped in that, write the word on a piece of paper today, white man. List all the things that the white man does. Then beside the word white man, write the word Tracy and see if anything on the left side matches anything that's on the right side. And then you're going to have some time to begin writing to strengthen this side, the right side. I'm like I'm in the classroom. Strengthen the right side and helping to eliminate the left side. You cannot. I was trained to be white, a white man. I was trained to to expel, suspend children, exclude. That's what my curriculum is about. So I ended up as a Black principal expelling more Black girls because when they went to the cafeteria, they were loud. I didn't want the embarrassment. I thought it was personal. I didn't know how to take those girls and get rhythm and music and form a lunchroom choir, which I did. And when I formed the lunchroom choir, all my suspensions went away. But I had to get to that. I had to turn noise into beauty. And so you may be suffering from white maleism. And if you are, work on it. And I'll be glad to work. It's very difficult, Tracy. Don't punish yourself. Don't punish yourself. Know that for such a time as that, you did what was right from your spirit. And then you'll just work together. But you got to raise who you are and eliminate who, quote unquote, they are. And it also helps with the image is to stop saying white people and use the word pale. That will help you eliminate much quicker with the imagination than trying to hold on to that. Okay, does that help you at all? And we'll work together. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions that could be either for Dr. Mimms or for TaRessa? Don't see any raised hands. No other questions? Oh, Bethany, yes, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you so much. This has been so amazing. I know I've been meaning to come to these. And I'm glad.
Did you get permission from Geneva?
I did. I got a whole lot of permission from Geneva this week. And so, yeah, like Dr. Mimms, it's such a blessing to be seeing you right now. You are a sight for sore eyes. I missed you. I'm so glad to see that you are alive and well. You are giving me so much life. You have given me so much life.
Thank you.
And I am just so thankful for this moment. It just like changes my trajectory as I move forward in life and in the ways that are hard to even like put into words, but I just know that this was such a moment in life that I needed. And so thank you.
Thank you.
Also for those notes, like I just feel very ready to embark into the world again. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dr. Mimm, I would like to do a give back. I would like to thank you for consistently maintaining your elegance. I think that is so important, not just in life, but particularly in this moment. I love the fact that you practice and model adornment. I love the fact that you model getting up and getting ready for the day, getting ready for the blessing, getting ready for the miracle. I mean, with your bracelets and your earrings, as opposed to like kind of like staying in your jammies or something all day and just becoming old and shriveled, and I really appreciate that, because I think that's a model. I think that's a model of the, people might think it's external, but it's not external. It's internal. It's totally internal. It's an internal elegance. And I thank your father for going out that day and shooting Santa Claus so that you knew that nothing you had was going to come from the outside, but it was all going to come from the inside. So thank you for modeling that for us.
Thank you. Yeah, you need to get up every day and put your jewelry on, because you're not going anywhere but to yourself. And going to yourself is the biggest space you can have. You've got to dress up. You've got to take the shower. Back in my day was the bath. You've got to put the jewelry on, and because it's so easy to sit around in a robe. And be careful that Zoom doesn't transfer you into the neglect of self. And once Zoom controls you, it's going to trap your beauty. It's going to trap your elegance. You will be 975 pounds, and it will be my big fat Zoom person. You'll have surgery. Your pressure will go elegant and glamorous. It takes work, and do it every day. You are your own nursery rhyme. You've got to do it. You've got to do it. And all of you, seriously, and particularly women, we are trapped. We take care of our children, we take care of our parents, we take care of everybody. And also, another recommendation: find a friend at least 10 years younger than you. Somebody that you talk to that's 10 years younger than you every day. It really makes a difference. It really makes a difference. 10 years younger and stay elegant. You will live a long time. It is a lot. Yes.
We are going to, we just cannot stop, because you have so much wisdom for us. But we are now in Give Back.
All right.
And as in Give Back, we want you to sit so elegantly back and just receive.
Thank you.
We're going to try to get through a long list of people who would like to give back to you, and we hope you'll be able to accept it. Remember, Give Back is hearing what you have heard today and being able to tell the speaker so that we refill them, replenish their energy. All right, Leah, who's next?
Oh, well, TaRessa.
Okay.
Okay, hi. This is a give back, Dr. Queen Mother Maxine, and it just really tickled me. I don't know how many of the folks here today saw the Sunday night. It's called Versus on Instagram. It's kind of a new thing in these times we're in, and they put two famous musical artists, usually African-American, who do a kind of friendly competition. So they've had several, they draw millions and millions of people. So for the first time this past Sunday, and it's on YouTube if you want to see it, they had Gladys Knight and Patti LaBelle. So of course, you had a million baby boomers trying to figure out Instagram. On Instagram, but it's on YouTube if you want to see the highlights. But I have to say, and I put something in the chat, when Queen Mother Maxine said, get a flip phone, Patti LaBelle on this, and had millions of people tweeting about flip phones. She says, I just want to tell you something. I have a flip phone and I've had it for 12 years and And I'm like, so I of course am looking for some kind of deep spiritual, ancestral, symbolic meaning that Patti LaBelle on Sunday and Queen Mother Dr. Maxine on Tuesday both said the exact same thing in praise of the flip phone. So all power to the flip phone. When I figure it out, I will find a way to share it with y'all. But I just saw Patti LaBelle and Dr. Maxine. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna pay attention. Just wanted to share.
I think next we have Dr. Zaragoza.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you, first off, to everybody who created the space and the lecture series. Absolutely joy to be part of. So thank you to Marla and Trey and Scott and Leah and Natasha, Angela, and of course to Dina Runga. Thank you for creating this space. It has been such a blessing to us. Also, thank you to Dr. Hardiman for your wisdom and being with us throughout the series and sharing from your font of knowledge, wisdom, and experience. Thank you, Sandy, also for your poem. Yes, we must continue to look up, especially during these times, and look to each other. TaRessa, very good. Thank you for the tips that you offered us for writing. And thank you so much for sharing with us those slides. I know I will be sure that they are up on our Canvas page and that we as a faculty will use them in our seminars. And hopefully someday we use your memoir as part of our reading for our work. I'd really love to see that, really support that. And you inspired me. I know that in my seminars, I need to free write every single Tuesday. So thank you for reminding me of that. Now, Dr. Mimms, it is so lovely to be in your presence virtually and in every other way. And I'm glad that we are here with you today. I want to thank you so much for helping to create, for founding this institution. We are at a time when institutions matter, and developing institutions is absolutely crucial. We need a power base for justice, and those power bases are nodes or institutions, and not just institutions that are relationship, or not just institutions that are buildings, but institutions that are networks of relationships, so that our personal power can flow to each other like the mycelium under the soil that connects the trees. We need to be the forest that stands up in these times to help each other, to lift each other up, to organize together, and to build a counter to the unreality that we are seeing around us and everywhere. We need to be that counter reality. And Dr. Mimms, you are such an example of helping to build what we need at this time. Thank you so much for all that you've done. Thank you so much for being who you are. And thank you for channeling your ancestors and becoming an ancestor of beauty, knowledge, and wisdom for us and for those who will come after. Dr. Mimms, I thank you most sincerely.
Extraordinary. Dr. Shepherd?
Everyone, Dr. Zaragoza is a member of the faculty, right? And so I want you to know that this is your safe place, a safe place to be, not just to feel safe, but as one of our students, Tanya Wilson, says, as a platform to be brave. To be safe is one thing, and that's important, but to be brave. TaRessa, I've known TaRessa for so long. TaRessa and Marcia and I were in a theater group together called the Choreo Poets. And to hear her, we're friends on Facebook, but to hear her and see her move in a little box like that is such a wonderful thing to experience. Sandy, I've never heard your poetry before. I've read it, but to hear your voice give it brings light to the world. It does what Dr. Mimms says. It brings us into a safe place so that we can be brave to look up, right? And that is so important. I want to say that Dr. Mimms is a conjure woman. Dr. Mimms creates magic. She has this kind of alchemy that takes fire and changes it into something it's even better. Think about Dr. Joy Hardiman. Think about LaVersa Sullivan. Think about Willie Parsons as colleagues. Think about Richard and Tony. And these are some names that some of you know and some of you don't know, but just remember that this is the fire that Dr. Mimms, sometimes together with, turn things into something, even as Joy sometimes quotes Spike Lee, "Mo better." But always not to the point that we forget about the fire. That's what Dr. Mimms has us do. That we can, as I think it was Dr. Hardiman as well, says it's important that our symbol is a Sankofa, that we go back, that we're not ashamed of who we are. There used to be a time when I met Dr. Mimms and people would say, "Have you been Maxine?" And that was the way she would hug you, the way she would embrace you. And that's the magic that Dr. Mimms has. With her talk with our student Belinda, I taught a course called Critical Discourse Analysis. I wish I could have taken that, because that's exactly what it was. Critical discourse analysis, but language is the place of struggle. She took that and made it from fire into something and lit a fire in Belinda and had us all think. That's what the magic of Dr. Mimms. She will talk to you through you so that you can be, you can see, you can hear, and you can do the dance in the street, no matter what it looked like. Dr. Mimms, among my grandmother, my father, my beloved mother, my sister and my brother, and my very good friend, Cabby Mitchell, you all have made me who I am and given me a pathway to see and be even more, and given me a safe place so that I can be brave. I am not indebted to you, because you wouldn't want that. I am with you. I am brushing out the path for you to walk. And thank you, Joy, for talking about being elegant, because I have my pajamas on under this. I'm telling you, I'm going to get up. I'm gonna put on my black dress and my white pearls. Barbara Lanis talks about the time, Dr. Mimms, you told her, just get a black dress and put on some white pearls. I'm gonna put on my black dress and some white pearls, and I'm gonna strut around my condo. You know, that's what I'm going to do. So thank you all for this. This is amazing. I'm so sorry that this is the first time that I was coming. I've been doing a lot with this film, and Dr. Mimms would have told me, don't say that. Don't say that. You know what I mean? When I love the way she does that. I love the way. I want to say also thank you to our dean, Dr. Marcia Tatarunga.
Thank you.
Marla German. Yes. Lord have mercy, Marla German.
Yes.
Natasha Lemke, who doesn't recruit, she invites. Leah Wilkins, who has been the manager from manager to unmanager, and the invisible Trey. The invisible Trey, who is there making everything happen. We are very lucky, but as Satchel Paige says, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So there you have it. So here I stand, Sandy, looking up.
Oh, Dr. Shepherd, what a beautiful way to end our virtual lecture series.